What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtnett. It is officially time to start off the previews for the College Football Playoff first round. In this video, I'm going over the Friday night game, which will be number 10 Indiana at number 7 Notre Dame. But before I get into it, if you go on to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date whenever I upload. But getting right into it, this is the number 10 Indiana Hoosiers, the story of college football this season, 11-1 going into this game. Their only loss to a fellow playoff team in Ohio State versus number 7 Notre Dame, also 11-1, a team that built up and got better throughout the season after really the most shocking loss still to this point of the season with that loss to Northern Illinois. But that is the story of how these two teams got here in brief. Indiana really ran through a fairly easy portion of the Big Ten schedule. That's not to take away from what they did, though. They were dominant throughout the season. I'll maybe pop up some of their numbers here, but really they comprehensively led in almost every game. They trailed against Michigan State, came back in that one to dominate, and then obviously lost to Ohio State. But other than that, they led for a majority of their 12 games. Notre Dame, again, vastly improved throughout the season. Riley Leonard went from really one of the worst quarterbacks in efficiency in college football to being one of the best. So this Fighting Irish team, like the Hoosiers, has been playing their best football to end the season. The one common opponent was Purdue. I think Indiana beat them 66-0. Notre Dame beat them like 66-7. So very comparable, similar results there. To me, this game is a strength versus strength matchup. And instead of talking about the quarterbacks, I want to talk about these two defenses first and kind of their collective offenses. They both rank in the top 6 nationally in points per game allowed. Scoring defense is the other term for that. This will come in handy when I'm talking about this game a little bit more later. Indiana has the best rushing defense in the nation, and Notre Dame has the number 3 passing defense. Where does that start, though? For this Notre Dame defense, they allowed more than 14 points just 3 times this season, and one of those was 16 points to NIU in really a game where their defense played well against the Huskies, but the offense was absent. Louisville and USC, who both have good offenses, were their two teams to score more than 2 touchdowns. That's dominance on the defensive side for Notre Dame. The Indiana defense has played similarly well. They were taken apart by Ohio State in that game, but some of that was due to turnovers. Kind of similarly was their game against Maryland. They turned the ball over 4 times, and because of that, the Terrapins scored 28. But other than that, there was just one other occurrence where they gave up more than 20, and that was against Northwestern. So Notre Dame, their defense starts with their linebackers, Jack Kaiser and Drake Brown. They're the 2 leading tacklers. In the back end, one of the top defensive backs in the country, Xavier Watts, 8 pass deflections and 5 interceptions. Then on the defensive line, Riley Mills has 6.5 sacks, and Howard Cross III has 4 sacks. As a unit, they don't have a lot of sacks, but these 2 guys are the ones who can get it done. They have 30 as a team. They're one of the top teams in the country, ranking in the top 5, I think tied for 4th, with 17 total interceptions this year, and they're also among the best in pass deflections with 50, and then they also have 13 forced fumbles, 11 recoveries. Indiana's defense, likewise, their top 2 tacklers are Aiden Fisher and Jalen Walker, both linebackers. Then, in the front end, they have one guy who will wreak havoc against the Fighting Irish offensive line. The Irish have a really good offensive line. That's proven by how they've run the ball this season, but they have their hands full with Mikhail Kamara, who has 10 sacks. Nearly a third of the Hoosiers' sack production this entire season. He has a third of it by himself. Also in the back end, they do a good job of intercepting the ball as well. Amari Farrell has 4 interceptions for a unit that has 14 and 40 pass deflections. So not quite as impressive as Notre Dame, but still a good passing defense. They have 11 forced fumbles and 9 recoveries. So this, I think, is going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be cold in South Bend. I think the weather is even potentially forecasting some snow on Friday night, so that'll be something to watch, but it really is a strength versus strength. And the reason I say that now, looking at the Notre Dame offense, Riley Leonard has improved this season. He's thrown for a little over 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but it is their ground game, and it's 3 different guys who can get the job done. Jeremiah Love has 949 yards and 15 touchdowns. Leonard is a dual threat quarterback, truly, with 721 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. And then Jadarian Price also has a tick over 650 yards and 7 touchdowns. So this Notre Dame rushing attack is one of the best, if not statistically, in terms of the variety and having 3 different guys who can do it, including one of the best 1-2 running back duos. As Marcus Freeman said on RG3's podcast, one of the top 2-headed running back tandems in Notre Dame football history. Freeman was a little cautious of putting the best title on there, but he said there certainly are one of the best. And then you add in Riley Leonard's ability to run as well. Again, this is the key thing here. How will the Indiana defense, which has proven to be the best in college football this year, how will they do against one of the top rushing attacks, certainly in the college football playoff field? That will be something key to watch. And then on the flip side, you have Curtis Rourke, who has been a star for Indiana this season after transferring in from Ohio. 2,827 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and obviously his top wide receiver is Elijah Surratt. This Hoosiers team, they statistically, again, kind of similarly, they don't rank as high, but where these teams both excel is their ability to capitalize. They are both top 3 in the country in scoring, in points per game, and I think what that shows is I think it really shows the excellences that these two defenses play with and special teams, that these teams are able to force turnovers. I mean, Notre Dame, 17 interceptions, 13 forced fumbles, 11 recovers. That's 28 takeaways. And then Indiana, similarly, is up there with 23 takeaways. So both of these two teams rank very highly in terms of their ability to take away the ball, but both quarterbacks do a good job of protecting the ball, and their running backs do as well. So I think it's every football game, it is important. But you look at some teams like an Ohio State that when their offense is clicking, ignoring the game against Michigan, when their offense is clicking, they can afford to turn the ball over a couple times. Even this Indiana offense can too, because their offense is so excellent. Like I mentioned, that game against Maryland, they turned the ball over 4 times, but they still win that game by a couple of scores. So that is the key here. I also think the strength of Indiana being their ground game and the fact that Notre Dame is probably going to turn to that. Notre Dame, what's going to be key is if they can break off some of those big runs, and they've been able to do that fairly well this season. So I think if Notre Dame can do that, they will push the Hoosiers. But it ultimately comes down to a prediction, and my prediction for this one is somewhat of a low-scoring game. I don't think it's going to be like a 14-7 type game. I think it'll be a little more than that. Indiana has a good offense. Notre Dame does as well. Like I said, these two teams are top 3 in the country in scoring, but I think where they both excel is also on the defensive end. I am going to go with an upset here, first playoff game in the first round of the 12-team playoff. I'm going to go with Indiana pulling a 27-23 upset. I think the Hoosiers have what it takes to get the job done in South Bend. That's a place where I would not be surprised if there's a good amount of red. Opposing fans, away fans, tend to do pretty well in that stadium in terms of filling it out. So I'm going with Indiana 27, Notre Dame 23. But let me know your prediction in the comments below, your thoughts on this game. I'll have the other 3 first-round games coming up in the coming days in the rest of this week. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burtnett, signing out. Peace.